Somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, something happened around a fire that changed the course of life on Earth. Not a battle, not a migration, not a discovery of a new continent. Something far quieter than any of those and far more permanent. A piece of food touched heat, and the human story was never the same. The real answer to what cooking actually did to your species is far stranger, far more biological, and far more personal than any recipe or culinary tradition suggests. Because cooking didn't just change what humans ate. It changed what humans became. It changed the size of your brain, the shape of your face, the length of your gut, the hours of your day, the nature of your relationships, and the structure of your society. All of it. From a fire. Let's start with what seems like a simple question. What does cooking actually do to food? At its most basic level, cooking is a form of external digestion. When you apply heat to food, you are breaking down the molecular structure of that food before it ever enters your body. Tough fibers soften, proteins denature, starches gelatinize, cell walls rupture, releasing their contents. The result is food that your body can process more quickly, more completely, and with dramatically less energetic expenditure than raw food requires. Primatologist Richard Wrangham at Harvard University has spent decades building the case for what he calls the cooking hypothesis. Wrangham argues that the adoption of cooking by early Homo was not merely a useful cultural practice, it was a biological turning point, one that drove a cascade of anatomical changes so profound that they effectively created a new kind of human being. The numbers are striking. A human digestive system requires roughly 60% less energy to process cooked food than raw food of the same type. That energy saving was not lost. It was redirected, and where it was redirected tells you almost everything about why you are the kind of animal you are. The human brain is the most metabolically expensive organ in the known biological world. At rest, your brain consumes roughly 20% of your total caloric intake, despite representing only about 2% of your body weight. Maintaining a large brain is extraordinarily costly, and for most evolutionary history, the caloric demands of a large brain competed directly with the caloric demands of a large digestive system. Other great apes solved this problem by eating enormous quantities of raw food over most of their waking hours. A gorilla may spend 8 to 10 hours a day chewing. Their digestive tracts are correspondingly massive, their guts occupying a much larger proportion of their body than yours does. The gut is the gorilla's energy solution. It is a vast, slow, expensive processing machine. Cooking changed the equation. When early humans began consistently applying heat to food, the caloric return per hour of eating increased dramatically. Suddenly, less time needed to be spent acquiring and processing food. And the gut, which had been a massive metabolic investment, could afford to shrink. And shrink it did. The human gut is dramatically shorter and less energetically expensive than the gut of our closest primate relatives, and the energy freed by that smaller gut flowed over evolutionary time toward the brain. Wrangham's hypothesis, supported by the fossil record, suggests that the dramatic increase in brain size seen in Homo erectus roughly 1.8 million years ago corresponds closely with evidence of fire use and cooked food. The timing is not coincidental, it is causal. Your brain is, in a very real biological sense, a consequence of cooking. But the anatomical changes went far beyond the brain and the gut. Look at your own face for a moment. Your jaw is small relative to other primates. Your teeth are small. Your chewing muscles are modest. Your face is flat. All of these features reflect a digestive system that has been for hundreds of thousands of years receiving pre-processed food. Food that has already been partially broken down by heat before your teeth ever touch it. You are not built to eat like a chimpanzee. You could not survive on a raw chimpanzee diet. Studies on humans who attempt to subsist on raw food diets consistently show significant weight loss, and in women, disruption of reproductive cycles. Your body in its current form requires cooking, not just benefits from it, requires it. You have been so thoroughly shaped by the cooking adaptation that you are now dependent on it for normal biological function. Now consider what cooking did to time. Hunter-gatherer groups that live without cooking spend enormous portions of their day in food acquisition and raw food processing. Cooking compresses that time. A meal that would require hours of chewing when raw can be consumed in minutes when cooked. And the extra time that cooking freed up those hours returned to the day became available for other things. for social interaction, for tool-making, for the conversations around a fire that researchers like Polly Wiesner have documented as the origin of narrative myth and moral reasoning. The fire that cooked the food was also the light that extended the day. Before cooking fires, when the sun set, the human world effectively ended. There was little to do in the dark and significant danger from predators. The fire changed that. It extended the period of social activity, of storytelling, of the complex face-to-face interaction that Dunbar's research suggests was the primary driver of the extraordinary expansion of human social cognition. Cooking also changed the nature of human relationships in ways that are still visible in every culture on Earth today. Anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss, writing in the 1960s, observed that the distinction between raw and cooked food is one of the most universal markers of cultural boundary in human societies. Every known human culture cooks. No other animal does. And in virtually every human society, the preparation and sharing of cooked food is embedded in the deepest layers of social ritual. Feasts, funerals, weddings, negotiations. The cooked meal is not just nutrition. It is the medium through which human relationships are formed, repaired, and maintained. Think about what it means that food had to be prepared before it could be eaten. Raw food can be consumed anywhere alone immediately. Cooked food requires planning. It requires a fire, which takes time to build and maintain. It requires gathering, which is often done cooperatively. It requires waiting, which happens socially. And the resulting meal is almost universally shared. Cooking created the conditions for the communal meal, and the communal meal created the conditions for the most complex forms of human social bonding. Researcher Michael Pollan, in his investigation of cooking's cultural dimensions, observed that the act of cooking for others is perhaps the most fundamental expression of care in human societies. To cook for someone is to transform raw materials into nourishment through effort and skill and time, and to offer that transformation as a gift. This act is so deeply embedded in human social experience that it predates language, predates religion, predates agriculture. It may predate anatomically modern humans entirely. Now consider what all of this means for the version of yourself sitting here right now. Your brain is the size it is because your ancestors cooked. Your face is the shape it is because your ancestors cooked. The hours of your day that are not consumed by finding and eating raw food exist because your ancestors cooked. The social rituals that structure your deepest relationships, the birthday dinner, the family meal, the shared lunch with a colleague you're trying to understand. All of these are direct cultural descendants of the moment an early human held food over a fire and changed the caloric equation of the species. You are not just someone who cooks. You are the biological product of cooking. It is not a skill you have. It is in a profound sense what you are. And yet, most people who cook do so without thinking about this at all. They follow a recipe. They heat a pan. They plate something and sit down. And in doing so, they participate without knowing it in the oldest and most consequential technology in the history of their species. The fire that changed everything is still burning. It is on your stove. It is in your oven. It is in the small, warm ritual of a meal prepared for someone you care about. And somewhere in the smell of something cooking, your ancient brain recognizes something it has known for almost 2 million years. That this is what it means to be human. That this is where the story began. And that it is still in every way that matters the center of everything.